Before we get started today, just a quick heads up. In 2 weeks, we are starting a brand new series, and I cannot think of a better series and a better time because I know for so many, you look around, you look at the headlines, you look at the world, you look at what's happening, and especially if you're a follower of Jesus, if you're a spiritual person, or even if you're just kind of trying to check things out, my guess is you're like me, and you've had a little bit of a sense of, what am I supposed to do? What is supposed to be happening? What is happening? And where are we supposed to go? And we're starting a brand new series called Be the Movement. And so if you've been wondering about what do I do or how do I respond or what does it look like when the world's kind of acting crazy like it's been, this is going to be the perfect series for you and to bring anybody that you know that maybe has some of those same kinds of questions about what are we supposed to be doing and how are we supposed to respond to the world around us? But today we are continuing our series called Choosing Great Relationships. And I want to put in one more little, not a plug isn't the right word, you just need to know this. Next week, John Trent is our guest speaker who kicked this series off, is going to come back. He's got some really cool stuff that he's going to share with you as we wrap up this series called Choosing Great Relationships. So don't want to miss that either. And like I said, if you know somebody, bring them along because he's going to do a great job kind of bringing everything we've talked about over these last several weeks under one umbrella, and you don't want to miss that either. But today, we're going to talk about a hard idea. We're going to talk about defining moments. And so I kind of was curious, and I had my own list, but I went to ChatGPT, and I said, hey, what are the defining moments of life? Because I wanted to see what ChatGPT thought they were. And it came back with some stuff that you would expect, right? So some of it was the big accomplishments, like graduating, landing your dream job, getting promoted, whatever those accomplishments might look like. It also came back with, which I thought started getting a little bit better, it went next to kind of those big decisions that you make, to get married, to buy a home, to kind of take those big steps that feel a little bit scary sometimes. And then it talked about the big connections that you make. And this one was kind of a trip down memory lane for me. It talked about, hey, when was the first time you met the person that's most important to you? Like all the way back. That was a big moment. That was a defining moment when you met that person. And it went on and it surprised me. Because it turned around and asked me a question, which I didn't expect. And by the way, I don't want a relationship with ChatGPT. But it asked me, it said, what moments have shaped you the most? And what did they teach you? And I'm like, first of all, I'm not telling you because you're going to use this in an algorithm somewhere. But I thought, that's a great question. Because if something is really a defining moment in your life, it needed to teach you something, right? It wasn't just the experience for the sake of the experience. It taught you something. And Chat went on to talk about painful moments, which I kind of wish it didn't. But it did talk about painful defining moments, losses that just kind of crush your spirit, divorces, broken relationships, things that really caused a lot of emotional pain. And as I struggled with that, I got to be honest with you, I struggled with that a little bit because I thought, I don't want those to be defining moments in my life. I've always kind of been of the mindset of, oh, okay, but you overcome and you push through and you go beyond and you don't let those things. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized, pain has actually taught me a lot of things. And I'm guessing you as well. In my own life, the pain of losing some people, whether it was through a broken relationship or actually losing them or moving away from them, had taught me that you need to cherish and love the people that you are with when you are with them. Because that won't always be the case. And maybe kind of on a more embarrassing note, pain has taught me a lot about my pride. And how when I'm selfish and put myself first, and when I go first instead of allowing my wife to go first, or I put myself ahead of my kids, or I put myself ahead of the people that I work with, it's not only embarrassing and shameful, it ends up being humiliating, and that pride gets in the way, and the pain that it causes teaches you some things. And so, Chat was right. Some of those, unfortunately, really painful moments in your life can actually be defining moments in your life. Because I even thought about what we're talking about, relationships. And broken relationships have created some really painful moments in my life. And again, I'm guessing that you're the same. But here's what Chat missed. Chat didn't list this one, so it's not superpower. It didn't say anything about reconciling a broken relationship. And to me, that's one of the most defining things that could happen out of a broken relationship. And I know you're already going all over the place. You're thinking about exes, and you're thinking about family members and mothers and fathers, and you're thinking about brothers and sisters and friendships and all that stuff. And as you think about those things, what if those were reconciled? And I don't just mean the kind of the nod, yeah, we're all good. I mean, no, the relationship has vitality and life, and you enjoy it again. What if those were reconciled? Would that be a defining moment? I think Chat missed it, and I think sometimes we miss it. Reconciling a broken relationship is a defining moment. It is. They're rare. They teach you a lot. You remember it, and it shapes you, doesn't it? It teaches you about yourself. If you're a follower of Jesus, it teaches you about him. It teaches you about other people. I mean, it can absolutely be a defining moment if you have an opportunity to reconcile a broken relationship. Now, by virtue of what I do, I'm a pastor if you didn't know that. By virtue of what I do, I get the privilege of walking people through some of their hardest moments of their life. And one of the things that I often say, because a lot of times people feel bad about it, like they don't know what to do and they don't know how to respond and they kind of feel overwhelmed. And I always go and tell them, look, you don't want to have a lot of experience when it comes to this. You don't want a lot of experience with dealing with loss. You don't want a lot of experience with dealing with broken relationships. You don't want to be that person that's like, oh yeah, I've done this a bunch. But the reality is, there's no playbook. There isn't. There is no playbook for a broken relationship. And there's no steps that you can take. There's no tried and true thing that if you'll just do these 4 things, it'll work. It doesn't exist. But here's the good news. What does exist is while there is no playbook, there is a perfect example. And so I want to spend a little bit of time with you this morning looking at the perfect example of how to reconcile a broken relationship. And it happens in John 18, if you have your Bible and you want to follow along with us. In John chapter 18, boy, we enter into the last few hours of Jesus' earthly life. And you may know the story, and so if you do, just kind of track with me for a second. If you don't, then I want to kind of set the stage for what's been happening, where we're going to kind of parachute in. Jesus has been arrested out in the dark on a hillside outside of town, and they did it that way on purpose because they didn't want to try to take him out in the daylight, out in front of everybody. It would cause a riot. It would cause a scene. They didn't want that. And they convinced one of Jesus' followers, his name was Judas, will you take us to him? In other words, will you betray him? We'll pay you and take care of you if you will get us around Jesus when nobody else is around him. Now, prior to all this, Jesus and his closest followers had been in a room hanging out, celebrating what we would call the Lord's Supper. Originally, it was called Passover. And they all were told by Jesus what was going to happen. They couldn't believe it. They're like, no. Nobody's going to arrest you. Nothing bad's going to happen. We don't have anything to do with that. And all of them said, we would never let that happen to you. We are with you. We are in this with you. We love you. We you know what? If we all have to die, no problem. And especially a guy named Peter. Peter was adamant. That's not going to happen. I will never leave you. I love you. I am with you. That's not going to happen, Jesus. So much so that if you fast forward just a little bit, when Jesus is being arrested, Peter swings a sword at a guy's head. And the reason we know he swung at his head is because he cut off his ear. Nobody aims for the ear, right? Like he was swinging at his head and he cut off his ear. I mean, Peter was in it. He was adamant. Jesus, I am with you. I'm going to go with you no matter what. I am not going to allow this to happen. I will never deny you. I will never betray you. You are my priority. You are my focus. And nothing is going to change that. And Jesus gets arrested. And Peter doesn't know what to do, but he's not given up. If you read the story closely, he follows at a distance. He's sneaking around in the dark. He's trying to get to Jesus. He doesn't have a plan. He doesn't have any power. He doesn't have any authority. He doesn't have any idea. He's not even good with a sword, but he's like, this can't go this way. And so he's sneaking around and he's following where they take Jesus, and they take him into this complex and courtyard, and there's a guard and a gate, and Peter gets to the garden gate. He doesn't even have a way in. But he's not giving up. And that's where we pick it up in John 18, verse 15. Simon Peter and another disciple were following Jesus. Because this disciple was known to the high priest, he went with Jesus into the high priest's courtyard, but Peter had to wait outside the door. He's still stuck outside. The other disciple who was known to the high priest came back, spoke to the servant girl on duty there, and brought Peter in. In other words, they snuck him in. Verse 17, you aren't one of this man's disciples too, are you? She asked Peter. Just pause there for a second. It's an easy answer. It's an obvious answer. No question. It's not complicated. He replied, I am not. It was cold, and the servant and the official stood around a fire that they had made to keep warm, and Peter was standing there with them, warming himself. Now skip down to verse 25. Meanwhile, Simon Peter was still standing there warming himself, and they asked him, you aren't one of his disciples too, are you? He denied it, saying, I am not. One of the high priest's servants, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, challenged him. Didn't I see you with him in the garden? And Peter denied it. And at that moment, a rooster began to crow. If you don't know the story, Jesus had told Peter, after all these proclamations of your love and your devotion and the fact that you're going to stick with me and that nothing can come between us and that this relationship is rock solid, Peter, I'm telling you, before the rooster crows, which are like, rooster, I don't live on a farm, what's the deal? The sun's coming up. Before daylight, you'll deny me 3 times. And if you read other descriptions of this account, Peter called down curses on himself. Peter denied it. He was swearing that he didn't know him. And he runs out into the night devastated. Because the one thing he said he would not do, he did. He said he loved Jesus more than all the rest, but he denied him. And it leaves you kind of this moment, and I know many of you know the story. What's going to happen? What is going to happen? Because some of you do know the story, and you know that Judas, the one who betrayed Jesus, filled with so much guilt and so much remorse that later he would take his own life. He spiraled down. What is going to happen to Peter? But before we talk about Peter, I want to talk about you. Have you ever been denied? Have you ever been denied in a relationship with somebody? And you wouldn't necessarily say the word denied, but you're in this relationship and you think things are good, and because your politics are different or because you have a different opinion, all of a sudden they ghost you and the relationship is over. That's being denied. Or maybe it's not that severe. Maybe it's finding out what they've been saying about you to everybody but you. That's being denied. Or even worse, when everybody was running you down and they had an opportunity to defend you, they had an opportunity to explain, they had an opportunity to kind of preserve your integrity, they didn't say anything. Just sat there with a closed mouth, pretending like they didn't know any different. That's what it feels like to be denied. And that's what it looks like to be denied. But what does it feel like to be denied? It's really hard because ultimately what's going on is really heart-level stuff. Because that person that you're in a relationship with, and let's be honest, if it's a stranger, you don't care. Like, you don't like it, but you don't care. It's the people that you have a relationship with when they deny you. That's when it matters. Because ultimately what's happened is you thought we trust each other. There's a level of trust, and you find out, no, I shouldn't trust them. You say things like, oh, come on, you know me. We know each other. We're tight. We're good. And you're like, no, I don't know you because I thought I knew you, but I don't know you. It stings. It's hard. It's painful, like we just talked about. The question isn't when you get denied, does it hurt or not? It absolutely does. The question is, just like Peter, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? Because it is painful, and let's not pretend that it's not. And like I said earlier, I'm guilty of that sometimes, where I just kind of like, okay, well, we'll just go on, and we'll just keep moving, and we'll just pretend it didn't happen, and we won't deal with it. We'll just kind of push forward, right? It's painful. And one of two things happen when you hit a painful moment in a relationship that is already broken or is about to break. It's going to spiral. The only question is which direction. You see, pain spirals down. And if it spirals down, it becomes a dark memory. Oh, yeah, I don't know what happened. Man, it It was horrible. It was tragic. I can't stand that person anymore because of what they did. It becomes a dark memory. Or pain can spiral up, and it can become a defining moment. There really is an option here. When a painful breakup happens, when a painful relationship breakage occurs, there is an option. It can spiral down, and eventually you look back on it and it's just a dark, terrible thing. Or it can spiral up and it can become a defining moment. And I know that sounds a little bit Pollyanna, but we're talking about a real example here, and we're talking about the real examples in your own life. And there's something that's actually really important, really curious about what happens when things spiral. Because you can spiral down, like we talked about. And spiraling down is actually really pretty easy. You don't really have to do anything. You don't have to try. It's passive. Spiraling down is passive. That is where you kind of, and pardon the imagery, it's where you get the cut or the wound and it gets infected and you let it fester. That's what spiraling down is. You don't have to do anything. It'll do it on its own. You will get bitter. You will become angry. You will be saddened. You will feel the pain again and again. And it will continue like that because you're just going to be passive and let it go. You don't do anything about the relationship. You wish it wasn't that way, but you just rehearse the things over and over in your mind, and it just seems to get worse. Or spirals up. Spiraling up is intentional. Spiraling up is stepping into the relationship, leaning in instead of closing yourself off. Spiraling up means I am taking some initiative and I am going to do something about this. I'm not going to allow it to just sit and fester. I'm going to do something about it. And so you can already see that really what we're talking about here is a choice. And while it's easier to think there's all the stuff that happens out there that happens to me, the reality is you actually have a big part to play in what happens around you. And while you don't get to control whether you get hurt or not, you do get to control the response to that hurt. And I told you earlier that we have a perfect example. We don't have a playbook, but we have a perfect example. And Jesus shows us exactly what it looks like to take a broken relationship and reconcile it. If you fast forward a few weeks after that night where Peter is standing over the charcoal fire and denying Jesus and running out into the darkness, Jesus is crucified. He rises from the dead. He appears to his disciples, and some people are like, oh, well, it's just a few people. You know, you got to kind of take their word for it. He appeared to over 500 people. This wasn't done in the dark. This wasn't a secret. Jesus rises from the dead. And he meets his disciples, and they're in the city of Jerusalem still, and he tells them, hey, I want you to go back home. I want you to go back to Galilee, which is about a 3 or 4 day walk. I want you to go back there and wait for me. I'm coming. Just go back and wait, okay? And I'll be there soon. And so they do. They go back and they wait. And as they're waiting, they don't know how long he's going to be. Some of these disciples, a lot of these disciples, they were fishermen. And so as they're sitting around waiting, they decide, well, we should probably go fishing. You know, we don't know what else to do. And so they go fishing, and they fish at night because that's when the commercial fishing is happening. They're out there fishing at night. And so one day they brought in their catch and they're doing their stuff, and the sun is rising. And as they look up, they see somebody on the beach. It doesn't take very long before they realize that it's Jesus. And so they move as fast as they can to the beach. And I want to share this with you as well. If you'll flip over to John chapter 21. And in John 21, they meet Jesus on the beach. And he's got a little fire going. And he's making breakfast. Verse 15. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Yes, Lord. He said, you know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my lambs. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He answered, well, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said, take care of my sheep. The third time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, do you love me? And he said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my sheep. Very truly, I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and you went where you wanted. But when you're old, you'll stretch out your hands and someone else will dress you and lead you to where you do not want to go. Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. And he said to him, follow me. That, to me, is so intense. I mean, I know that Peter wanted to talk to Jesus. I don't know if Peter knew that Jesus wanted to talk to him. You know what I'm saying? Like, Peter wanted to fix everything. He just didn't know if Jesus wanted to fix it. And when he has the opportunity, he goes and he's there on the beach and they're eating and they're hanging out. And then Jesus asks him these questions. 3 times he asked him, do you love me? 1 for each denial. I don't even know who you are. Never met the man. Don't know anything about him. Not his follower. Every denial, he asked him, do you love me? He asked him, do you love me more than these? Because Peter, if you remember, you had said, you love me more than all of these, right? It's a hard conversation, isn't it? And it's tempting to think that Jesus is like, is he just kind of sticking it to him? Like, let's find out for sure. Remember how you denied me 3 times? I'm gonna question you 3 times. Remember how you said you love me more than ever? Do you really? Because you didn't. I mean, what is he doing? Is he sticking it to him? No. He's doing something far more important. Jesus is dealing with Peter's pride for a really, really important reason. And this matters to you. Because pride kills reconciliation. It does every time. Pride kills. It absolutely kills the opportunity to reconcile a broken relationship. It cannot coexist. You cannot fix what is broken and hold on to your pride. It will not work. And Jesus loves Peter too much to not help him understand he's got to relent. He's got to let go of that prideful boasting more than everybody else. You know I do. I am. I will. I'm with you. Everything was about him. And Jesus is lovingly confronting Peter and letting him know that this pride thing, it's not just a problem between you and me, Peter. It's a problem between you and everybody. We got to deal with this. Because pride kills reconciliation. It is relenting, and we're going to talk about that. It is relenting that sparks reconciliation. It's when we finally relent, that's what sparks reconciliation. But pride kills it. Jesus, he loved Peter. And we're going to look at in just a moment how he basically just reinstates him. I mean, over and over and over, he asked him, do you love me? Yes. But every time he gave him something to do. Well, then I want you to feed my lambs. I want you to lead my people. I've got a place for you. I've got something important for you to do, Peter. We're not done here. Jesus uses the words because he didn't want any mistakes. He didn't want Peter to think that I think we're good. We kind of nodded at each other and we're like, you good? I'm good. We're good, right? We're good. No. We're going to use the words. This is too important to just kind of assume everything's okay. And Jesus uses the words. He conveys his love. He tells Peter he values him. He lets him know he's forgiven. He lets him know that there's a value and purpose to the rest of his life and that this relationship is important to him. If we shift gears for just a second, we've talked about this pretty much every time we've been in this series. This simple idea that choosing Christ changes my relationships. It's a simple statement. Choosing Christ changes my relationships. And here's where this hits home for you. You see, might be a little uncomfortable, but you need to hear it. By your sin, and sin is a very simple idea. It means anytime I've fallen short of what God created me to be and do. Anytime I put something in front of God, anytime I've mistreated somebody, anytime I've lacked the integrity even of within myself to be the person I want to be, anytime I've missed the mark, that's a sin. And my sin, your sin, is a denial of Jesus. It's no different than Peter. I don't even know the guy. I don't have anything to do with him. It's a denial. But here's the beautiful part. Jesus comes along and he says, I am going to give my life so that your sin can be forgiven. That's going to be wiped away. That's not between us anymore. That's gone. It's clean. It's clear. And I don't see you that way anymore. I see you as righteous and holy, even if you haven't acted righteous and holy, because I'm going to die in your place. But I'm not done yet. I'm also going to come back to life. I'm going to rise back to life. I'm going to raise back to life. And that resurrection is a guarantee for you that you can have new life. And not only is your denial covered, and not only do you have new life, he says, my Spirit is going to come and live in your heart, and I am going to transform you, not into who you used to be, but into the person I created you to be. This is what reconciliation looks like. And when you choose Christ, that's what he does in your life. And think about that. I mean, it makes so much sense, right? If he comes in, he wipes away my sin, he gives me a new life, he changes me completely. Well, obviously, my relationship with God is different now. We've been reconciled. We're on the same page now. And of course, because I'm a different person, it's going to impact every relationship that I have. How could it not? I mean, following Jesus has become my identity. How could that not change all of my other relationships? And that's why I say he's the perfect example. And here's what you need to hear. We don't have any trouble believing that Jesus loved Peter. Well, of course he did. He was one of the disciples. He was one of his guys. He was there. I mean, he's in the Bible, right? You know, he loves you exactly the same way. He wants to be reconciled to you exactly the same way. The love, the forgiveness, the purpose, the value, the belonging, all of those things that he wanted to reinstate with Peter, he wants with you. You matter to him. That is the example of being reconciled. And so then it becomes a question for us. As we think about our own relationships, what do I do? What's the playbook? How do I fix it? There is no playbook, but there is a perfect example. What do I do? I follow his example. I don't let it sit. I'm not going to be passive. I'm going to be intentional. I'm not going to close it off. I'm going to lean in. I'm not going to settle for just assuming everything is good. I'm going to make sure it's good. I'm not settling for just forgiveness. I want restoration. And it all happens when you relent. We talked about that, right? Relent. It is relenting that sparks reconciliation. When I relent, and you're like, what do you mean relent? Okay, maybe it's a pride thing. Like, yeah, but they did and they owe and I don't have and I'm waiting on an apology or whatever, or I can't forgive that. It was too much. It was too hard. It was too many times. Or I just, you know what, as soon as they show some changes, then I will. You know, I get it. I understand. And that's exactly what you have to relent. You say, but it's not my fault. You don't know. They did. I understand. I do. But if you want to spark reconciliation, you have to relent, even if, and we know this isn't true, even if it is 100% their fault. If you want to reconcile it, you're going to have to relent. So how do you even relent? What does that even look like? What does that mean? Again, it's not a playbook, but I can tell you about 3 different choices that you have to make. There are 3 choices that you can make that allow you to process through this idea of relenting to try to spark reconciliation. And here's the thing. You know this. Even if you do all of this, it doesn't mean the relationship's going to be reconciled. This is not a 100% guarantee thing. The only guarantee is that you can be reconciled with Jesus. The other person gets to choose, right? You may do it all right, and they still don't want anything to do with you. And there's nothing you can do. That's okay. It's not okay, but you understand what I'm saying. There's nothing else you can do. But you can relent, and you can make these 3 simple choices. The first one is to choose to open the door. And it's exactly what it sounds like, to just choose to open the door. Like, to let them know, I would still like to have a relationship. I would still like for us to be able to hang out. I would still like for us to be able to talk and share life and just talk about what's going on. Like, I want that with you. And understand there's stuff, there's things, maybe some stuff we got to deal with. But I just want you to know that I still want a relationship with you. I mean, Jesus showed up on the beach. It wasn't on accident. He was there. He didn't do anything wrong. But he wanted the relationship reconciled. He was not good with allowing that broken relationship to just sit and fester. And so he opened the door in a beach of all places after the sun rose. Quite a contrast to shivering in the dark and running away. Jesus steps in, and you can too. Open the door. You know the situation. You know the person. You know all the things so much better than I do. But you also understand what I'm saying. The first choice you have to make if you want to relent is to open the door and make sure they know you want a relationship. So you choose to open the door. Second thing is you have to choose to absolve. It's a kind of an odd sounding word. But sometimes we throw around the word forgiveness so much it loses its punch. You have to absolve them of whatever wrong you think happened. And here's what I know, because I hear this, and I've said this all the time. Yeah, but it's complicated. My relationship with my brother, my relationship with my mom, my relationship with my sister, my relationship with my ex, my relationship with, it's just, it's complicated. I get it. I do. I understand. And it probably is. Here's what else I know. There is one thing about every relationship that is true, and that makes it simple. That if pride is lowered and forgiveness is offered, reconciliation is always possible. Humility and forgiveness are always grounds for repair. Always. Again, there are no guarantees. But you say it's complicated, and I understand it's complicated. But if you come in with humility and you come in with forgiveness, you're giving yourself a chance to reconcile what has been broken. And maybe that is you giving forgiveness. Or maybe it's you asking for forgiveness. Or it could be that it's like you just said, it really is complicated. You have to both give and receive forgiveness. Because there was a lot that went on. But you choose to absolve the other person. You're no longer responsible. I'm no longer expecting an apology. I'm no longer counting on you doing this, that, or the other thing. I'm going to absolve you of any wrongdoing. And I'm going to ask you to absolve me of any wrongdoing. So I'm going to open the door. I'm going to absolve you. Just like Jesus, I'm going to use the words. I'm not going to assume we're all good. We're not going to just kind of do a little head nod and it's good. Yeah, we're good. No. We're going to actually talk it out because it matters. We're going to fix it. We're going to reconcile that relationship. And then there's one other choice, one other simple choice. You have to choose to value the other person. Now, this one is a little tricky because you've opened the door, and that makes a lot of sense. You've made that decision to choose to absolve them. Now you're choosing to value them. This isn't just, I forgave you, and if you want a relationship, we can have one. This is, you matter to me. You belong in my life. No, we may not agree on things. No, your choices and my choices may be completely different. No, I don't like some of the things you're doing and the things you're saying. Okay, I got all that, but I still value you. I still want a relationship with you. Like I said, what Jesus did with Peter over and over and over, feed my lambs, lead my people. He kept giving him things because he wanted him engaged and involved. This wasn't just okay, everything's good and we can kind of check that off now. That relationship's okay and I'm going to step away from it. This was no. This is to lay the foundation for something better in the future. And I'll be honest, it's a lot easier to talk about all this than it is to do it. And my guess is you're just like me. Because believe it or not, while I'm talking, I'm thinking about people in relationships too. and there's easy to push back, yeah, but, and well, no, and And so here's what we're going to do, and this is a little bit different, and I'm going to ask you to just kind of trust me. I promise you're not going to be embarrassed. I promise not anything weird is going to happen to you. But we always talk about a next step. And so I'm going to invite you to take a next step with me, and it's a simple next step. It's to pray a prayer. And I'll give you a heads up. For some of you, this prayer is going to be one you're going to want to pray several times. You may want to get your phone out and actually take a picture of the screen, because we're going to put it on the screen. We're going to stand up. We're going to read it. Yes, you can pray with your eyes open. Yes, you can pray as you're reading. And we are going to pray it together as a church body. But you may want to get a picture of this and say, you know what? I'm probably going to have to pray that prayer more than once because the situation is what it is, right? And beyond that, if you're here and you're honestly, kind of running through and like, I just don't have any broken relationships. First of all, thank you and teach us. And we're excited for you. Would you pray this prayer for somebody you know that does have a broken relationship? So what we're going to do, like I said, in just a moment, we're going to stand and we're going to read it out loud, line by line. And I encourage you to offer it up as a spirit of prayer. In your heart, you are talking to God about the relationships in your life or the relationships in the lives of the people that matter to you. So let's do that together. Let's stand. We're going to put it on the screen. We're going to read it together out loud and pray this together. So I'm going to ask you to join with me. It's on all three screens. In a spirit of prayer, please read with me. Jesus, thank you for choosing grace. Help me choose grace when I want to retreat. Jesus, thank you for listening to me. Help me listen when I want to lash out. Jesus, thank you for speaking life to me. Help me speak life when silence feels easier. Jesus, thank you for reconciling me. Give me courage to reconcile what's broken. When I spiral, let it be up towards you. In Jesus' name, amen. You may be seated.